from last time. I think we got this. I know it took a couple months to get here. We made some technical edits to it based on some feedback we got from the carriers themselves. And I think this is a good, nice balanced approach to resolving the service gaps in town and maintaining the aesthetics in our neighborhoods. I think we've met that here.
Any additional questions on that? Do you know who took that on first reading? Do you remember who took that? No. Doesn't have to be the same.
I might have.
Okay. It doesn't matter who did. Just.
I'm happy to.
Are you okay taking it?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Belko, who would like to second it?
Second
read. Councilwoman Apel. Thank you. So we'll have the full public hearing on that, followed by the vote. 2021-12, an ordinance amending the Cherry Hill Township zoning ordinance, section 417, regional business B4, and is recommended by the Cherry Hill Township Planning Board. And the ordinance amends the zoning ordinance to remove all prohibitions of drive-through restaurants and or eating establishments from the regional B4 zone and adds counter service windows and drive-through restaurants as a permitted accessory use within the B4 zone. And again, this was sent to the planning board for their research analysis, came back to us recommending it. And again, it's, in today's world, economy, et cetera, drive-throughs seem like always did, but seem like more of a way of life now. So any additional questions there? Allowing drive-throughs in the B4. All right, who would like to take that?
I'll do that one.
Roscoff, who would like to second that? Councilman Carter. Thank you. 2021-13 ordinance by the Township of Cherry Hill, County of Camden, New Jersey, prohibiting the operation of any class of cannabis business within its geographical boundaries. The ordinance prohibits all cannabis establishments, distributors, or delivery services from operating in Cherry Hill. Just to be clear, and we'll certainly recap this in the public session as well. I know we've had plenty of conversation about it. The way the statute was written, August 21st is the deadline for the Cannabis Commission to provide its rules and regs. And the quirkiness of the law says that for any town that opts out, you can opt in at any time, but if you opt in, you are hardwired for a 5-year period. So the consensus is we can opt out now, wait for the regs, have a process in place for us to be able to revisit this during a reasonable timeline. And I'm going to ask Councilwoman Roscoff for her thoughts in just a minute. So when we do act, if we do act, and I think there's a sense that it's very likely that we would, if we're going to do it, that we're going to do it right. And I'd like to say too, I personally don't think there's anyone in this room who would sign a contract without reading the fine print. And my opinion is by enacting it before saying the regs, it would be like signing a contract without reading the fine print. So we've had a great healthy discussion. I think there was consensus that we'll take this pause by opting out initially. We wanted to make sure that we had a timeline in place that we could be comfortable with, that we'll be tackling the issue. So Councilwoman, did you want to?
So I just wanted to make it clear. It's not that I am 100% yes or 100% no. I know everybody keeps saying, oh, you want it. What I want is whatever decision we come to, we can explain to the public how we got to that decision, how we got to the hard yes or how we got to the hard no. And once we make the decision, we are all comfortable with that process. The proposed timeline that I would like to see is if the rules and regulations come out on August 21st, by the middle of September, all of us have read the state rules and regulations and have posed any questions to the mayor's office that we have or concerns that we have or things we don't understand. By October 1st, and this is a hard date because of the chief's retirement, but by October 1st, he's given us a report of what he sees as the public safety issues and any concerns that he may have with regulating and legislation and patrolling. By November 1st, Cosmos has gone through and looked and given us all a report about zoning impacts, whether we can change our zoning, whether we can't change our zoning, what that's going to look like. by December 1st, we've all had a conversation about what we're going to do with that 2% tax that comes in. By January 1st, we've had a public town hall, some kind of meeting where we have public input and we hear from the public. And then by February 1st, we've made our decision. That's a 6-month timeline. I think 6 months is a long enough time. I thought 6 months was a long enough time back in March when this came out. I understand why we waited, but I don't want to wait past 6 more months.
It's a pretty good timeline.
And it's flexible, right? I mean, we all know that things happen and it would be flexible. These are not dates written in stone. I'd like the October date to be kind of but that's the only one. The rest of them I can see as being approximate time, but I don't think, I personally don't want to push the decision past February 1st, which is a 6-month timeline for us.
Seems like a reasonable timeline. As you pointed out, if there's an occasional curveball, we'll work through it, effectively. Other feedback?
I just have one question for, one of the reasons why we're opting out is to see the effects in neighboring towns. Do we have any mechanism, any loop, like in the timeline to get the feedback from the neighboring towns, the pros and cons, what they would have done different, things like that, talk to their police force, stuff like that?
Look, I'd say the longer you wait, the more ability there is to see the impact, right? So there's a compromise or a happy medium here. I suspect just as, we received information from the State Bar Association, right, which advised or gave a strong rationale for why municipalities should opt out initially and wait for the regs. You'll have these statewide organizations, and I suspect including the New Jersey League of Municipalities, as more and more towns begin to process it, that we'll have a better understanding of what that is. It might not be till closer to the February deadline, to that February date, but I think more of these organizations will weigh in. And I think there's no necessary rhyme or reason to it. Again, it was just last week that the State Bar Association came out and recommended that there was a strong rationale for towns to opt out initially because of lack of regs. But I think that's what we'll have to capture in some of these organizations, as well as just the relationships that we have with other towns of what's working and what's not.
And I think there has to be some clear education to the community that what we're talking about is growth and distribution. We are not talking about consumption, because I've had many people in my neighborhood say to me, oh, thank you for doing that, because I don't want to be sitting in my backyard and have my children smell marijuana. Well, you're going to be getting an awful lot of calls, right? And there's nothing that this does not stop consumption. Everybody, just like they can sit on their deck and drink a beer, they can sit on their deck and smoke, and we can't stop that. And I think that needs to be really clear to people.
And frankly, I think that's another reason why some additional time also gives us time for more education, because I think towns, whether they opted in or out, that the residents need that time to digest how it works. I think the other important point on this, and then we'll move on, because I know we've got some close, is the issue that we are all crystal clear on, and that the public is, which sometimes gets confused, is the issue of decriminalization. And we know that decriminalization has already taken place at the state level. Right. This does not impact that in any way, shape, or form, and we fully supported the decriminalization of it. So we are strictly talking about that, that distribution and other pieces of it. So thank you, Councilwoman, for that feedback. I think that gives us a nice framework. Who would like to take that on second reading? 21-13. Okay, Councilman Carter, thank you. Councilwoman Joshi, the second, thank you. Then move on to bills. Who would like to take the bills?
All right, we're gonna log off and we'll be back soon.
Yeah. It's in the back.
Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Right after.
22 million.
Who would like to take those? You need a taker. Councilman Carter, thank you.